Bonjour à toutes et à tous. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to the first of Asia Pacific Foundation of Canada's online Asia Leaders Speaker Series. My name is Christine Nakamura, Vice President of the Asia Pacific Foundation of Canada's Toronto office, and your host for today's event. We apologize for the slight delay that we had, but a few technical difficulties, but everything's resolved now. So while we are meeting today in a global digital space with participants logged in from all over the world, from Europe, South and Southeast Asia, Northeast Asia, USA, and from coast to coast to coast across Canada, the Asia Pacific Foundation of Canada takes this opportunity to acknowledge that the places Canadians call home are the traditional territories of many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit. I'd like to first of all thank Dr. Yasuyuki Sawada, Chief Economist of the Asia Development Bank, for agreeing to be our first speaker in our online series. The focus of his presentation on the economic impacts of the pandemic on Asia and the Pacific, and more specifically on the developing economies, will lay the foundation for future sessions in this series. Before I call on our board chair to make welcome and opening remarks, I'd like to mention a few housekeeping items. First of all, this webinar is currently being recorded, and we hope to post it shortly after the event. Please use your Q&A box located at the top right-hand corner of your screen during the presentation for questions you may have. We'll do our best to answer as many questions, time permitting, of course, at the end of the presentation. Any questions not answered, please feel free to reach out to us offline. For technical support, contact events@asiapacific.ca. I repeat, events@asiapacific.ca. And we have scheduled roughly an hour and a bit for this event. I am now delighted to provide a bit of background on Asia Pacific Foundation's chair of the board and executive advisor international at Deloitte Canada, the Honorable Pierre Pettigrew. As many of us know, Mr. Pettigrew has extensive international experience in both the public and private sectors. After being elected to Parliament in 1996, he held many ministerial portfolios over a 10-year period, including Minister of Foreign Affairs, Minister of International Trade, Minister of International Cooperation, and Minister of the Environment, just to name a few. While serving in these capacities, Mr. Pettigrew traveled extensively around the globe and countless times to the Asia-Pacific region. Until recently, he served as the Government of Canada's Special Envoy for the Canada-European Union Comprehensive Economic and Trade Agreement, or better known as CETA, which entered into force in September 2017. Mr. Pettigrew is the author of The New Politics of Confidence, a book on globalization and the art of governing. So with no further ado, I'd like to ask Mr. Pettigrew to make welcome and opening remarks. Mr. Pettigrew?
Well, thank you, Christine, and good morning to everyone. It is a great pleasure for me to welcome so many of you to Asia Pacific Foundations of Canada's very first online Asia Leaders Speaker Series. It's a great event for us this morning. We live in most unprecedented times. This pandemic is beyond anything we have experienced and will hopefully never have to experience again in our lifetime. But I believe that there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Humans have demonstrated time and time again that when faced with challenges, humans can rise to the occasion and overcome disasters, whether caused by humans or nature. We are resilient, creative, courageous. And with the extraordinary collaboration happening within Canada and among advanced economies around the globe, I know that this invisible enemy will be beaten. I believe that concerted efforts in R&D will realize treatments and vaccines sooner than originally expected. And as you may know, Human testing of vaccines has already begun in a number of jurisdictions around the globe, including here in Canada. As history has shown, challenges engender opportunities and innovation. The pandemic is generating major changes to how we live, work, study, and have fun. Changes that I believe will enable us to return to a semblance of the past. While we may never return to pre-pandemic lifestyles, a new normal will emerge, which may prove to be even better than what we previously called normal. In a number of Asian countries, total lockdown was neither needed nor mandated. In the coming weeks, the Asia Pacific Foundation of Canada will present experts from Asian economies that are successfully tackling the pandemic. They will address strategies employed in their jurisdictions to contain and manage COVID-19. As provinces in Canada begin to cautiously loosen restrictions, we look forward to hearing from our Asian friends about their experiences about reopening, revitalizing their economies, and any advice that they may have for Canada. Our first presentation in our series by Dr. Sawada, which looks broadly at the economic impact of COVID-19 on the Asia-Pacific region, will provide an excellent segue into subsequent sessions on country-specific experiences in Asia. I believe that lessons learned from Asia may have policy implications for Canada, and hope that our speaker series will help us avoid unnecessary pitfalls as we go forward. Before handing back the mic to Christine, I would like to take a moment to thank the healthcare workers and all those on the front lines in Canada and around the world who are working tirelessly to protect our health and safety. Thank you, and I look forward to today's presentation from Dr. Sawada, and I thank everyone for your active participation in the discussion that will follow. Thank you so much, Christine.
Thank you, Mr. Pettigrew. I will now try to provide a brief biography, if that is possible, of our guest speaker, Dr. Yasuyuki Sawada, who assumed his current position as Chief Economist at Asia Development Bank in 2017. Dr. Sawada, a Japanese national, has extensive experience as an economist, researcher, and academic, and is a leading figure in development economics and applied microeconometrics. Dr. Sawada acts as ADB's spokesperson on economic issues and heads its Economic Research and Regional Cooperation Department, which is tasked with policy research on development challenges facing Asia and the Pacific, and produces the Asia Development Outlook, ADB's signature economic report. Dr. Sawada earned a PhD in economics and a master's degree in international development policy at Stanford University. He also received master's degrees in international relations from the University of Tokyo and economics from Osaka University, and a bachelor's degree in economics from Keio University, all renowned universities in Japan. Prior to his appointment as ADB's chief economist, he was a professor at the University of Tokyo's Graduate School of Economics. He has also served as a visiting professor at Stanford University's Stanford Center for International Development and adjunct professor of economics at Korea University in Seoul. Dr. Sawada, the mic is yours.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much for having me today. Today, I'd like to spend 20 or so minutes sharing with you main ingredients of our flagship report, ADB's flagship report, Asian Development Outlook, ADO, came out a month ago, first week of April. Slide number 2 summarizes key messages of this report. There are 4 key messages of ADO 2020. First, a focus for developing Asia's growth this year has been revised down substantially to 2.2% this year. But once the outbreak is contained, we expect growth to rebound to 6.2% next year. Secondly, the down economy untouched. So all the economies in Asia will be affected. The regions, the two largest economies, People's Republic of China and India, will both grow substantially this year, as most of the other regional economies. Third, risks around the current forecast are extremely large due to uncertain evolution of the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. Environment is changing very rapidly, and ADB has been updating its forecast as needed. And finally, the economic impact has been right, but government policy responses such as increased health spending and direct interventions on income and revenues, the COVID-19 impact will be mitigated. So these are the four key messages I'd like to share with you today. So there are two charts in this slide. Number 3, left chart showing that GDP growth in developing Asia is projected to grow again from 5.2% last year to 2.3% this year. So 3.3 percentage points below our 2020 forecast from September last year, as you can see from the left chart. And but it is expected to rebound to 6.2% next year once activity in the region recovers when COVID-19 outbreak is contained. And as we said in the discussion of the risks, this V-shaped recovery is not necessarily assured. The decline could be steeper and the recovery slower than our baseline, according to rapid evolution of the pandemic. Growth in the region in two largest economies, PRC, China and India, shown in the right chart, has already slowed in 2019 last year for different reasons, and the growth will slow further this year before rebounding next year. Weak global demand will weigh on the 2020 outlook for the rest of the region, particularly in more open sub-regions and tourist-dependent economies such as Thailand and Fiji. As we can see, you can see from this table, all the economies shown here have had their 2020 growth forecast revised downward, as indicated by the red arrow for 2020. But it is expected to rebound next year, as shown in the green arrows for 2021 columns, once activity in the region recovers and when COVID-19 outbreak is effectively contained. But again, V-shaped recovery is not necessarily assured, and this V-shaped recovery can be U-shaped or even L-shaped this year and next year, depending on the evolution of the pandemic. Slide number 5 summarizes global pandemic risk. Although there are continued threats to the Asian growth outlook from a range of issues, such as natural disasters to geopolitics, but as you would agree, the most pressing threat right now comes from the global pandemic. The forecast assumes that containment this year and return to the normal activity next year. But again, future evolution and effects of the outbreak are highly uncertain. So here, 5 possible risk elements we listed. First, outbreak can and has spread to more countries, including other ADBs developing countries' economy. Also, recurrence would be possible. Secondly, it may take longer to contain the outbreak than currently envisioned. We envision 3 to 6 months for containment, but it may take much longer. Thirdly, economic effects may be larger than the currently envisioned. Size of the construction activity in January and February, as well as the first quarter, was big supplies, an example of such supplies. And fourth, we cannot discount possibility of financial turmoil and of some countries experienced by financial crisis. And fifth, global pandemic could leave permanent scars, resulting in fundamental long-term changes to the global economy. There could be a retreat from globalization, for example, which would be detrimental for the region because the Asia Pacific region has been benefited so much from the open and regional integration. So given the magnitude of the impact and the risk of the outbreak poses, it's important that policymakers as well as international organization agencies like ADB act quickly and decisively. And lastly, in this rapidly changing environment, focus can quickly become outdated. So we have been continuing to monitor the situation and update our focus and analyze this as needed. But anyway, let me share with you the impact of COVID-19 as of March 1st, and then later I'd like to share with you latest impact assessment. Start at the six showing COVID-19 outbreak and also its evolution. ADB put out the very first assessment of economic impact of COVID-19 as ADB brief on March 6, 2 months ago. Since then, there have been three big changes taking place. First is initially in March, outbreak was concentrated in China, and more than 90% of cases are concentrated in China in early March. But now that has become a global pandemic. And indeed, in terms of cases and the fatalities, Europe and the US had a much more significant impact than China and Asia. Secondly, actually, the use of containment policies such as community quarantine and the protest ban has increased dramatically in March and April, putting a lot of stress in economy. And lastly, as I briefly mentioned, we got the first hard data on the impact of the outbreak in PRC, and also Q1, the first quarter macro indicators came out, and they didn't look good. So three things we needed to incorporate and update our very first March 6th impact assessment. Slide number 7 summarizes estimated global and regional economic impact as of April 3. So in this April 3, first week of April, we expect that COVID-19 outbreak to result in a global losses of between $2.0 trillion to $4.1 trillion. In terms of the proportion to global GDP, this impact is as high as 2.3% of global GDP up to 4.8% of global GDP. And most of the impact, more than 50% impact falls on the country outside of developing Asia, with the US and Europe accounting for bulk of the losses. So this is a chronology of our impact assessment of COVID-19. So as I said already, March 6th initial analysis, when China was nearly a center of the epidemic. At the time, we estimated global impact of $77 billion to $347 billion total global impact. But 1 month later, April 3, ADO, as a part of ADO, we released updated impact assessment. As I mentioned in the previous slide, a month ago, global impact was estimated as high as $2 trillion to $4.1 trillion. But at that time, total global cases were 500,000 cases. So today, we observe more than 3.5 million global cases, and around half is in Europe, US, 30 or 4%, and China is only few percent. So that's today's picture in terms of the pandemic. And so it's necessary to update our ADO estimate, already 1 month old and a bit outdated. So actually, we are working on this update, and a week later, next week, January 15th, we will release our updated assessment. But today, I'd like to share with you some preview of our updated impact assessment. And also, in terms of the growth forecast revision, we will release ADO supplement. Usually mid-July, but this year we will put out mid-June. We are planning June 18th as the launching date of the ADB supplement growth update. Slide number 10, again, recap global COVID confirmed cases, cumulative numbers and deaths, as well as daily number of cases. So we see a continuous increase in number of confirmed cases globally, and also unfortunately number of deaths accumulating daily. And again, we see new cases mostly found in outside of Asia. And because of this continuous accumulation of cases, this is the very reason why we must continually update or estimate of COVID-19 impact. Number 11 is titled How COVID-19 Affects the Economy. Actually, the latest forecast impact assessment, which will be released next week, we adopted a more comprehensive approach. First, we expanded country coverage, analyzing all countries with over 1,000 infections affected by COVID-19 and economy encountered downturn. Secondly, we used a multi-regional global threat analysis project model, so-called the GTAP model, general equivalent model, as opposed to the previous first impact assessment and second impact assessment. We used a multi-regional input output partial equivalent analysis. So we adapted the more sophisticated modeling framework. And thirdly, we cover more over channels listed here, especially in the web font, based on the observed mechanisms at work. Mainly three major channels we additionally incorporated. An increase in trade cost first, and secondly, negative productivity shock from lockdown, and thirdly, government policy responses. So we also, in addition to plainly come up with the impact assessment of the COVID-19 on economy, we also evaluated effectiveness of different policy measures adopted by countries around the globe. Step number 12, actually, this time we incorporated the role of government policy responses, and immediately after COVID-19 spread beyond the PRC, governments globally began increasing government spending on health, public safety, and then now putting a lot of effort to support the income, employment, and businesses. So in order to grasp effectiveness of these large-scale policy programs and projects, we also, separately, we also set up a study project, COVID-19 database. So this our policy chapter database with unified framework so that we can compare prospectively, we can better understand where the country address the impact of the pandemic. Specifically, we analyze government direct support to income or revenue in this updated analysis. In total, some $4.7 trillion US was announced by 68 economies and countries of ADB's regional and non-regional members. So we use these 68 economies policy data. As expected, the size of the stimulus package from developed economies was larger. As you can see from this slide, right end showing a developed economy, and total amount of the total scale of policy program is as high as 7.7% of GDP. And also, left end, Central Asia appears to have a high scale. Mainly, this is mainly due to a large amount announced in Kazakhstan. And the middle, we have a regional, size of the government programs project. Southeast Asia comes the second largest in Asia, and then East Asia third place. So this is a new database we compiled, and you can see the link. If you want, you can see actual data from individual countries. So slide number 13, this is a preview of our updated GTAP model-based impact assessment coming next week. First, ADO's estimate. Again, I'm repeating again. April 3rd estimate, we came up with a figure to this trillion, $1 trillion global impact. Now, updated impact assessment shows total global impact is more than double. And second important finding from this updated analysis is effectiveness of policy. And with the government policy resources, such as increasing health spending, direct income support, etc., COVID-19 impact will be mitigated by around 40%. So, large-scale stimulus package we are observing right now, I think that's really playing a key role to soften the direct impact of COVID-19. Next slide, summarizing some critical issues beyond this. Today, I share with you impact assessment of COVID-19 by ADB, but there are a few critical issues also we need to track. First, basically, conceptually, many people consider a fundamental trade-off between containment of epidemic and economic activity. So actually, many countries' data from developing Asia shows the stringent containment policy really supplements economic activity. So critically observe this fundamental trade-off. But at the same time, I think it's very important to point few countries, especially relatively high income developing Asian countries' economies. For example, Taipei, China, avoided this fundamental trade-off by adopting smart or digital-based lockdown or containment policy. But having said this, this fundamental trade-off we need to view from the poverty angle. Fundamental trade-off is really putting a lot of the stress disproportionately to poor segment of society. And next week, when we update impact assessment, we also show, depending on the effectiveness of containment policy and also reopening the economy, poverty reduction trend of Asia can be reversed. If stringent containment policy continue and the economy continue to be suppressed, then we see a reversal of poverty, long-term poverty reduction trend of Asia Pacific region. So I think this is a point that we're to stress. Secondly, as I briefly touch upon the risk slide, we cannot really underestimate the possibility of financial and economic crisis. Basically, this is a health crisis that can turn into a financial crisis if borrowers, individual households, businesses, default their existing loans and outstanding debt. That will put lots of stress on financial sector, that can turn into a financial crisis. So I think this is really important to watch and also prevent financial crisis. And thirdly, ADB has released again the ADB is a COVID-19 policy database that provides the information about the policy measure. And actually, we also need to track effectiveness of counter measures, and also dynamically, sequentially, we need to improve effectiveness of different policy programs and measures. And finally, currently burning issue is how and when we open the economy. I think there are three key principles. Number one, a smart lockdown or smart containment, testing, tracing, and isolation using a digital technology without encountering sharp trade-off. I think that's very important. So health containment and effectively, I think that's very important. First principle. And second key principle out of the three is to select industry and occupation in terms of degree of essentiality and economic importance. We need the data, and also we need to consider capacity to implement social distancing measures and also work from home arrangement. So we really carefully prioritize which sector and which occupation are more essential and more important from economy, using the granular data. And the third one is first principle of smart containment. The second principle of selecting right operation like industry. We need to government needs to set the stages to reopen the economy sequentially, considering three key elements of essentiality, economic importance, and health risks. So these are the critical issues, and also we see use of big data and real-time survey data. That's really useful to consider the right reopening strategy. So I think this is the end of my talk, and final slide again summarize the key messages. Asian growth will slow down this year, but next year bounce back, V-shaped recovery. Second, the including PRC and India, a V-shaped recovery we enjoy right now. Thirdly, COVID-19 pandemic is a really big source of risk to Asia economic outlook. And then finally, government policies are needed, and also different issues, as I said, reopening economic strategy, etc., etc. We really follow up, and we really support the different countries' initiative program. With that, I'd like to stop my initial presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sawada. First of all, I'd like to apologize a little bit for the audio quality. We've had some technical issues, and unfortunately, we've had to change the platform for this session. So hopefully, we can improve it for the next round. Thank you, Dr. Sawada. Now we have a bit of time for our Q&A, and my colleagues have been monitoring the numerous questions that have been posted during the presentation. We'll try to do our best to get through them, time permitting. So the first question I'm going to ask, Dr. Sawada, could you please add some comment on whether there is likely to be an impact on regional FDI stocks, in particular Japan, Korea, and Singapore, into China in the coming months and years as a result of vulnerable supply chains? And additionally, do you see Japan in particular moving more exponentially towards reducing its supply chain reliance on China?
Question, I think that there's some trend of diverting FDI from China to other non-China Asia countries or economies. I think that's a large concern. In general, I'd like to mention two things quickly. First, I think disaster, including the COVID-19 pandemic, disaster accelerates pre-existing trend before disaster. So that's the first thing I'd like to mention. And secondly, pre-COVID situation, actually, partly due to U.S.-China tension, already FDI moving out from China to other Asian countries, notably countries like Vietnam, Malaysia, and Thailand. We see, those countries producing a similar product, comparable products to China, attract foreign investment. Partly due to China-U.S. tension and also rising wage in China. And I think COVID-19 accelerated this pre-COVID trend. So I think it's natural to see that FDI divided from China to non-China Asia economy. But having said this, big concern is setting back from globalization. Each country became more domestic oriented. I think there are reasons. For example, PPE, personal protective equipment. I think because of this health security concern, countries can move to more inward oriented. That can be to some extent justifiable. But overall, I think setting back from globalization will really make a big economic cost to the economy. And as I mentioned in the presentation, I think Asia has been a number one beneficiary of open trade, open investment system. So I think it's very important to affirm the importance of this open trade and investment regime.
Okay, thank you very much. The next question, Dr. Sawada, we have here is, has the ADB analyzed the impacts on micro and small and medium enterprises, which has always been touted as the bedrock of economies, and what long-term policies are being reviewed to ensure resilience for surviving COVID-19, and what is being put in place?
Thank you very much. That's a very important question. Micro and medium and small enterprises. I think this is very important because majority of enterprises and business in developing Asia are run by micro, small, and medium enterprises. So watching and investigating COVID-19 impact on these businesses really critical. So we are now working on a survey of MSMEs, micro, small, and medium enterprises. This survey is ongoing. So today I cannot really share the findings yet because this question is still ongoing. So I think, but I can make a few important elements. I think, as I briefly touched upon, worst case scenario is that small businesses have difficulty to continue their business because of the lockdown, and also they are lacking working capital, and ultimately they became insolvent for repayment of debt, and that will potentially turn into a financial crisis. So this is the worst case scenario. I think government can support from three areas. Number one is supporting employment, not only survival of MSMEs, but also supporting employed, effectively unemployed workers. I think that's very important. So supporting employment and also income support or in-kind transfer, that's very important. Secondly, schedule. can be postponed. So, this is one channel government can help firms to continue their business in spite of this temporal lockdown. So tax policies can be tax forbearance or some alternative arrangement for taxation. I think that can be considered by the government. And finally, financial forbearance. Some type of financial forbearance can be necessary, should be necessary, and that includes providing extended loans and also rescheduling of existing loans, and also for financial sector to support this engagement, providing government providing credit guarantee so that financial institutions can extend temporal rescue type of credit provision. I think that kind of broadly speaking, financial forbearance program are really critical. So again, three areas: employment, tax, and finance. Three areas government can support medium, small, and micro enterprises.
Thank you very much. The next question, Dr. Sawada, is as a result of the economic impacts of COVID-19, we have seen many countries around the world take a more protectionist approach to international trade, recognizing the need to strengthen domestic industries and resilience. Would this influence the willingness of the Asian economies to cooperate on and negotiate new trade agreements with Western economies? Would that affect that? And do you think that there will be a greater regional focus on trade within Asia instead of expansion outside of the region?
Yes, I think that's a very important question. Again, because of COVID-19, there are some risk of setting back from globalization and open economic system. So I think it's very important. I believe that will happen, but that's important for Asian countries and economies get together to again reaffirm the importance of regional cooperation and open economic regime. So TPP 11 and APF, I think that needs to be revised, in partly handling or coping with the COVID-19. But I think Asian countries and also including non-Asian countries' economies supporting this large-scale regional trade agreement and arrangement. I think that's very important. And also I believe because naturally COVID and the pandemic is cross-border health issues, and so cross-border policy actions are needed. So naturally, I think countries in the region and outside the region to get together to consolidate their policy intervention and coordinate. So I think there will be a momentum after COVID-19 or in the process of the recovery from COVID-19 for the country, not only Asian countries but also Asian countries get together to collaborate for better regional cooperation regime and schemes. And indeed, ADB it has been helping regional cooperation integration within Asia and also outside Asia. So I think ADB will continue to support this regional or global initiative to aiming at the better open economic system.
Thank you. Another question here we have, ADB has approved billions in assistance to address the domestic needs of its developing member countries, financing social, public health, and economic assistance programs intended to mitigate the fallout of COVID-19. What kinds of cooperative actions can countries take to help multilateral organizations like the ADB to stimulate the global economy?
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. I'd like to respond two ways. The first, I'd like to briefly mention about the ADB's ongoing COVID-19 response effort. a couple of weeks ago, ADB came up with a $20 billion package for member countries to respond COVID-19 pandemic. And the $20 billion package, actually April 13, we announced it. $20 billion includes $2 billion no-sovereign support, private sector support, and $13 billion for budget support. And the budget support, because now all the countries around the globe needs to intervene in health arena for emergency response, and also, as I said, in order to soften negative impact of stringent containment policy, income support, and other type of business support, etc., needed. So I think huge amount of budget needed. So 13 billion out of the 20 billion of the ADB, the package, supposed to be supporting this budget expenses. And also, we have resources to provide procurement of medical and personal protective equipment and other supplies. And we have a grant element, supporting in-kind transfer, food support, social protection programs, including health and medical expenses. So this is ADB's support. And actually, I think this is very important. So 20 billion package already approved by our board of directors. So our non-Asian member countries really support this large-scale, unprecedented package, ranging from ground operation to budget support, and also private sector support. Private sector support involving supporting trade operation, and also providing some resources to support the financial institutions so that small and medium scale enterprises finance can be continued. So I think trade finance and SME finance are part of the private sector operation. So I think this multifaceted program of ADB of 20 billion really supported by regional member countries and board director. So I think really this is very important. At the same time, I think countries should support collaboration across the different international organizations. For ADB, closely collaborating with World Bank and IMF, that's very, very important. And also specific to COVID-19, this collaboration should be really involved WHO, UNICEF, and other important international institutions. So I think supporting this international initiative so that we can internalize. So this is actually in economics, this is a negative externality, cross-border negative externality that necessitates global consolidated and concerted action. So I think supporting international organizations, the program project, that's the one modality of supporting and internalize negative externality through consolidated or concerted countries' action around the world.
Thank you. Unfortunately, we're running out of time as we started a few minutes late. I apologize, but it is already 1 a.m. in Tokyo where Dr. Sawada is calling in from. So with no further ado, I'm going to call upon our President and CEO, Stuart Beck, and former High Commissioner to India to make closing remarks. Over to you, Stuart.
I just want to say thank you very much, Christine, and to Dr. Sawada for a really excellent presentation, providing the background that we needed on what the impact of COVID has been so far. But there are a few takeaways I think that were important. One is certainly the impact on supply chains, and I think Dr. Sawada clearly pointed out what those impacts would be. I mean, we will be facing enormous risks going forward, and so there's a large amount of uncertainty. So the best that we can do is use data to our advantage. And again, Dr. Sawada was very helpful in pointing that out. But at the end of the day, one of the key takeaways, and certainly from the Asia Pacific Foundation's perspective, this is important for Canada and I'm sure the world, is that Asia will be an engine of growth going forward. And even though we'll be looking at trends down in 2020, the prediction for 6.2% growth in 2021, I think, is heartening and something that we need to understand and develop. The other thing we can't really predict is the impact of the geopolitical situation, and we know that there is these issues going on between China and the United States, which will impact almost everybody. So it's something to look forward to. But as a final point, Dr. Sawada, you pointed out the $20 billion package that ADB is putting together. This will be important and will help take things going forward into the future. My thanks again to all. Thanks to Chris and her team in Toronto for putting this together. This is the first in a series that we will be doing. The next one is next Wednesday, May 13th, and we will have two Korean economists, Dr. Choi Byun-il, professor and former dean of the Graduate School of International Studies at Ewha Women's University, and Dr. Kwon Sun-man, professor and former dean of the School of Public Health at Seoul National University. Both these gentlemen will be talking about the impact of the coronavirus and Korea's response to it, but also looking forward as to what Korea will be doing to mitigate and to develop its own strategy going forward. So thank you very much again, and I look forward to seeing many of you again next week.